In the late 1800s, millions of Americans came west, seeking fortune and adventure. Among them was Wyatt Earp, a legend of a man best known for his gunfight at the OK Corral. Most people remember him as a lawman, but he was also a buffalo hunter, a saloon keeper, a gambler, and a prospector. Some even say he was a murderer. Wyatt's gone now, as are all the others, and our town's quite empty. But their spirits live on, the spirit of the Old West. So, come with me to explore this old town. Discover the story of Wyatt Earp and what life was really like in the Old West. Howdy, partner, and welcome to Wyatt Earp's Old West. I'm George, and I'll be showing you around. This here's the signpost. Clicking it helps you to do a lot of things. For example, click town to begin roaming around. You can do this right now and bypass the rest of my directions. Click shootout to go directly to the gunfighting game. Click guns to remove the possibility of a gunfighter accosting you on the street. Click it again later if you change your mind. Click lingo to learn more about the Western terminology. Click exit to leave the program. Click help for advice on using the program. Click save before you leave so the program will remember what you've collected. Click load so you can begin again from where you last saved. During your visit, a few other tools of the trade will come in handy. You'll find these at the bottom of the screen. First, there's the picture of the signpost. Click that to come back here. Then there's the money bag. When you answer my questions right or shoot the bad guys, I'll put more money in. And you can use these coins in the one-armed bandit, which you'll find in the saloon. You can also click on the small picture of a map to see the whole town at once and where you're standing. And don't forget to click on the gun behind the Wyatt Earp sign at the bottom of the screen to turn your pointer into a gun. You should do this pretty quick if a gunfighter jumps out at you. You better get going now. I'll see you soon. Feeling lost, partner? Your signpost will help you. Click town to explore Wyatt Earp's Old West. Click shootout to go directly to the gunfighting game. Click guns if you don't want to play against the gunfighters in town. Click guns again if you change your mind. Click lingo to find out more about the terms that you hear throughout your visit. Click exit to quit the program. Click help anytime you got a question. Click save to save your last adventure. Click load to continue your last adventure. Shoot fast, partner. Only one star left. Welcome to Boot Hill, partner. Time to become a better shot, or you'll end up 6 feet under. These three... Give me your best shot, cowpoke. You call that shooting? Better practice some, partner, or hang up your holster. John was the teamster on an ore wagon down at Tombstone's mine. He fell off, and one of the thick wheels ran right over his head, crushing his skull. You know, two folk you won't find here are Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. Both these noted gunfighters, ironically enough, died in bed of what you call natural causes. Doc took his last stand against tuberculosis in 1887 and lost. He was just 35. Wyatt, on the other hand, lived to be the ripe age of 80. Then he was buried in Colma, California. That's a quiet town with a whole mess of cemeteries. More folk dead than alive. Charles was shot by his fellow rancher, William McCauley. The two were arguing over the best way to drive cattle, fast or slow. Guess old Bill kind of won that argument. Partner, I'll give you a silver dollar if you can answer this question right. I'm the brains of this outfit, and I says you're wrong. These drawers held all the patent medicine salesman's special ingredients. He combined one or two of them with whiskey and made a remedy for a specific ailment. For instance, the tonic for sore eyes came with the tip of a black cat's tail. You'd put a dab of whiskey on the eyelid and use the tail to wipe it off. For colic, the prescription was a little sip of catnip tea and whiskey. And for headaches, camphor mixed with rye was rubbed into your scalp. Seems like a waste of good liquor to me. This here's the boarding house. People kept their water cool by storing it in a large clay pot called a crock. The water didn't always taste fresh and wasn't always clean. Diseases carried through the water took a lot of lives back in Wyatt Earp's time. Some say Wyatt's first wife died of cholera or yellow fever, which she might have caught drinking stale water. Others say she died in childbirth. Most residents drew their water up from a well by working a pump like this. An indoor pump wasn't the lap of luxury, but it sure beat hauling water in buckets from a well or a pump outdoors. A cupboard like this would store crocks of beef and pork pickled in brine and cans of cooking fat. Food was greasy back in the Old West. Meat fried in oil, bread dipped in bacon grease, potatoes cooked with lard. Even vegetables were usually fried. People thought a high-fat diet was healthy and gave a person the energy needed for a day of hard physical labor. On shopping day, a boarding house landlady would lay in enough supplies to fill several cupboards like this one. There'd be cocoa, coffee, sugar, cakes of yeast. And it wouldn't be cheap, since the cost of shipping kept the price of food high. Cabbage and 2 pounds of corned beef could cost 35 cents. And this was when the average man would earn $3 a day. It's about $60 a month, if he could get steady work. A woman would set aside Cooking with a pot-bellied stove was probably the most common method used in the 1880s, but a family might have made their coffee over an open fireplace like this if they were too poor to afford a stove. They'd make their coffee in pots of enameled tin, and as the pots got old, the taste of the metal would flavor the coffee. The coffee was brewed strong, and everyone drank it, even the young children. Partner, if you answer my question true, I have a silver dollar for you. You might not think of the Old West as a place of great spiritual elevation, and to some extent you'd be right. The Earp brothers, for instance, were famous for wearing long black parson's coats, but they may or may not have ever set foot inside a church. And their friend Doc Holliday was definitely not a devout man. Looking east from Tombstone, he once pronounced, "I've heard more lies spoken and whispered in church than in all the saloons from here to Dodge City." Meanwhile, looking west from that there Dodge City, some church-going Kansans lamented that there was no Sunday west of Junction City and no God west of Salina. Yet you'd be surprised how many Westerners did slick up in their Sunday-go-to-meeting clothes for an hour's redemption from their customary pursuits. The gambling men would think nothing of fortifying themselves with a couple of drinks first to ease the whole thing along, and then after the service, they and the soiled doves would head back on over to the saloons to get back to business. As marshal, Wyatt Earp was charged with keeping the peace, not hanging folk. For that job, there was an executioner, a specialist at hanging men. Probably the best-known hangman in the Old West was George Malden, who said casually years later, "I never hanged a man who came back to have the job done over." Of course, sometimes folks took justice into their own hands, like the time in Tombstone when John Heath was convicted of second-degree instead of first-degree murder. The residents disagreed with the verdict, took him out of jail, and strung him up. Why was there From your moving pictures, you might think that learning in an Old West town took place in a one-room schoolhouse. Well, you'd be right. A teacher had to educate kids of every age and grade level all at once. Also, these kids might speak many different languages at home. For a trouble, teach might be paid all of about $25 a month, maybe half or just a third of what most men made. Still, Western teachers did a good job in a hard situation. During Wyatt Earp's time in Kansas, that there state was fixing to score one of the highest literacy rates in the country. Well, ain't it about time you went on back to school, partner? Come on, see what you can learn. By 1880, the United States was shaped more or less the way it is today, except that the pie was cut up a bit different. Some parcels, like Arizona, were called territories, like it shows here on this map of 1880. The Dakotas hadn't gone their separate ways yet, and Hawaii hadn't joined the Union. And the place you call Oklahoma? Why, it was Indian territory back then. Partner, if you answer my question true, I have a silver dollar for you. You might be surprised to find this here brewery. Trains in Wyatt Earp's day. Welcome to the railroad station and telegraph office. Your train might be coming in at any minute. Oh, in case some of you... Now, railroads helped to create the Old West of legend, and they helped to destroy it. They created many towns, such as Wyatt Earp's rip-roaring Dodge City, where the trains met the Texas cattle drives. But the railroad also ended the native tribes' freedom to roam, and it began a buffalo hunting stampede that drove the bison near to extinction. Them trains also put an end to the long-distance stagecoach. Finally, once the railroads provided regular transportation to the east, frontier towns began to lose the isolation that had let them be so wild and so colorful. So, look around, but be careful. You might find yourself buying a ticket from the Old West back to the future. Thank you. Towns like Tombstone were so interesting. This suitcase held the few. The station agent used a ledger like this to record injuries received by passengers and train workers along the track in the station's jurisdiction. Everything from bruised arms to crushed bodies is required by federal law. I wonder if the death of Frank Stillwell was recorded in a ledger like this after he was killed by the Earps at the train station in Tucson. They have one of these machines over at the bank. You can go there if you want to learn more about it. For a new silver dollar, give me the right answer to this question. You done wrong, fella. Here's the courthouse, partner. Belonging to a volunteer. Fire alarms were. Bet you won't believe this one. It's a little known fact that Wyatt. Besides getting robbed from time, a town's bank would also control much of its real estate holdings, either by way of mortgage loans or through some form of trust. Many people thought Wyatt Earp was a mighty fine man for upholding the law, but others say he did it for the money. You see, he received a share of all the tax money that he collected from those citizens who didn't want to. I'll give you a new silver dollar if you can tell that there's a wrong answer, I'm afraid. Here's the courthouse, partner. Living in an isolated cabin like this, the only neighbor a miner would have would be the scrub brush around him and a few coyote. Yes, indeed, mining was a lonely life, but the reward was great if you were lucky. Folks came from all over the West to take a chance on the Tombstone silver lode. Wyatt Earp was in Dodge City when he heard about Tombstone. He collected his brothers, and they went to Tombstone with around $20,000 to invest, although no one is sure where they got the money. The Earps owned several mines while they lived in Tombstone, and Wyatt named one the Mattie Blaylock, after his second wife. This here's the livery stable. If you were new to town, you'd make a beeline over here first. It was like a combination parking lot and rent-a-car agency, except that since America hadn't gotten around to inventing the automobile yet, it dealt in horses. If you brought your own horse to town, if you think the slot machine over at the... There were good doctors, though. Many of them trained by the military. In gold mining country, you'd expect to find a... I'll give you a new silver dollar if you can tell me... Hombres, senoritas, right this... Now, Wyatt Earp's town of Tombstone. This piano might have provided the accompaniment for the folk ballads that were sung here. Your reward's a silver dollar for the right answer to my question. That there's a wrong answer, I'm afraid. This here's the Oriental. Well, here's the answer. Partner, something tells me you weren't listening back there. This here's the can. Welcome to the express office. Since stagecoaches were vulnerable, during violent labor, I'll give you a new silver dollar if you can tell me the right answer to my question. Hey, you new in town? You better learn things fast. That there stubble's looking a bit long. The barber's an interesting sort of. Any barber chair white. Stranger, you had better get back inside and take a good look around. Welcome to the express office. Since stagecoaches were born, go and learn it for yourself. A hotel might seem like a luxury. Now, luxury wasn't always. The silver dollar is yours, partner. If you can answer this, give it another shot, partner. Now here's the post office. Or getting mail would always be a thrill. For many Western lawmen, your lawman's job wasn't really. This is China Alley. Here you'll find a bathhouse, an opium den, drinking and gambling. In every Hollywood movie, I got. You don't hear all that much about women of the West were being here. Well, the keeper of this here dry goods store was, depending on how much was in your pocket. I'll give you a new silver dollar if you can tell me the right answer. Looks like real trouble for you, cowboy. I'm going to let you have it. Welcome to these three are the least